Ya Allah, grant me anything that is most pleasing to you. Ya Allah, grant me anything that is most pleasing to you.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, as-salatu was-salamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Amma ba'da, fa'udhu billahi minash shaytanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ya Rasulallah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ya Nabi Allah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Nur Allah. My dear Islam brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, welcome to another episode of Behavior Matters. Inshallah we'll bring you some more interesting and exciting stuff regarding behavior, regarding how to be controlling behavior, especially of our children, and how to react to these type of things. Inshallah, before we continue with our episode, inshallah, let's listen to a blessing of sending peace and blessings upon the Holy Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam. The merciful Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam said, "O people, without doubt, the one attaining salvation quickly on the day of judgment from its horror and accountability will be the one amongst you who will have recited salat upon me abundantly in this world. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala." So my dear Islam brothers, try to make it a habit of reciting salat upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in abundance, so that we can be saved from the troubles and the accountabilities of those of the day of judgment. Inshallah, before we continue with our silsila, let's try to make some good intentions, inshallah, will to attain reward. And it's mentioned in hadith that the intention of a believer is better than his action. And the more righteous intention we make, inshallah, the greater the reward we will attain. Make this intention, inshallah, that you'll watch this for the sake of knowledge, and inshallah for the sake of making ourselves and our society better, so that we can improve ourselves in the matters of deen and make our hereafter better. My dear Islam brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, so today's topic inshallah is regarding extended families and the issues and its effect on the behavior. Dr. Saab, extended families, how can this have an effect on the behavior issues of the people coming, or the people who are with the families which we are with?
First of all, let's look at the definition of extended family. In an ideal world, if these days we have what we call as nuclear families, so the parents and the children and a pet. So that's the definition of a nuclear family. The extended family compared to that is where, in addition to the parents and the children and the pet, you've got members of the family from a generation above, so grandparents. Now, alhamdulillah, in our Eastern values, mostly that's the model that exists in the family, that grandparents are also living in the same household, and there is a greater involvement from all the family members, whether it's grandparents, uncles, aunts, and it's the upbringing of children happens in that particular environment.
Some households even have great grandparents living with them as well, and some people have the opportunity to see their great grandparents as well.
And compared to a very sort of sterile environment here in the West, where you only got the parents and the children
and the pet.
So that's the sort of extended family concept. I would actually, to begin with, I would like to share some benefits from a psychological point of view, or from a behavior point of view, or from a social effect point of view. What are the benefits of extended family? When I was in Pakistan, we used to have our family members bringing their children to Pakistan, and most parents will actually agree with me that if you take the same age child from UK to Pakistan, and there is another child of the family who was born and bred in Pakistan of the same age, you will realize that that child is actually much more mature than this UK born bred child.
Most of the cases.
In many cases, the language development point of view, confidence point of view, achieving milestones point of view, they are advanced than the age of this particular child who has gone from UK or another Western country where we have this nuclear family type model. Why is that the case? Now, as we explained, one of the behavior psychology is that the environment and our experiences make us learn things in our life, and we behave according to that. Those people who live in extended family, there is greater verbal communication. They hear more words. The more words they hear, their brain picks up and they begin to develop language quicker. These children, they see more things happening in this, in the family. They are taken outside a bit more because the risks there are less than, what you may experience here in the Western society and so forth. So the child is having much more experiences, whether it is from listening to the words that leads to language development, whether it is the interactions with those children and the feelings and emotions, they will be actually more developed. And also looking at the other children as well, and the greater amount of interaction and the greater time that they spend with these other people, that they will actually then develop these skills at a faster rate than someone who has got in a nuclear family less exposure to these things.
Dr. One thing come to my mind is, there is obviously you're talking about extended families. There's a difference from the grandparents and the grandchildren because of language also here. So whereas we would have understood our grandparents, the language of theirs, because the situation we was brought up in, but our children don't even understand us speaking our own language. How would they understand?
I disagree with that, and I would like to prove my point that here in UK we got families where there is the grandparents may not be living with the family as much. However, they are still spending more time with these children, and I can I can challenge this to anyone, that go and speak to the children who got grandparents living with them. These children will be much more expert in their native language, in their mother language. So for example, whatever the native language of the grandparents is, because these children are spending more time with the grandparents, they have a better developed native language. And that's an advantage because the child can learn many languages. So yes, the child is picking up English from the parents, but the native language from the grandparents. Or if the parents are speaking more and more of the native language, then they will pick up this native language as well. But ultimately, the children, they've got this natural tendency to understand these things, and they have got greater understandings. I can many times see my child that when the grandparents are there, and he knows that if his grandmother is unable to speak English, he will actually use those words from the native language which he otherwise will not speak. And I get surprised that he's never used these words, but here in that given situation, he is using these words, which is clearly telling me that he has got an understanding. It's just that I'm not willing to accept, or I may be expecting this much understanding, but he's got that much understanding. So that gap that I have is creation of my own, what shall I say, is unacceptable hopes from that child. So children do understand, and they do take in these interactions from the grandparents and so forth.
What's the benefit of extended families? How would it be benefiting a child's mindset, his upbringing, his education?
You can think about these benefits in many ways. And someone who is actually living without extended family, and the moment one child is okay, but the moment they start having the second child, then the mother and the father, they may be working. Now you need to drop the one child at school. You need to carry the second child with you. You are going here and there, you need to carry both children. So one immediate benefit that all the nuclear family parents will agree with me. If they want to disagree, then there may be a different reason. But they will agree with me that if they had their grandparents living with them, life will become so much easier for them. That's one point of view. Secondly, we all have our values and cultural values, religious values. Many working families, what they are actually doing is that if they are both working, they then pay money to the carers to come in. They spend money for the carers to actually look after their child, whether this is at the nursery or at home or whatever. What values these carers are actually instilling to these children? Definitely they are not going to be majority of the cases, they're not going to be the values that you want them. So your parents, the grandparents of the child, they will look after them free of cost. They're saving money, and they will actually develop these ethical, religious, social, culturally appropriate values into these children. And then what happens is that the interaction that the child is having with these grandparents is long lasting. They are members of the family. You are not actually, the child gets confused when you put them in a nursery, then there is this carer, you have a temporary interaction, then the child gets taken away. In the nursery, you may not be looked after by the same carer. The carer may be changing. There is no continuity of care. So with grandparents, there is continuity of care, and that relationship is much more meaningful as well. And from a religious point of view, you are teaching so many good things to your children of respecting grandparents. And to be honest, there are studies, those individuals who have a negative view about elderly, then when they themselves become elderly, they do not enjoy being elderly. Why? Because they have had those negative thoughts, negative experiences, and when they become an elderly, they will automatically assume those things happening to them. Whereas if we begin to have extended family experiences in our homes, then even when I become an elderly, I will have a much more pleasant experience. And this is one of the reasons why elderly people, they feel lonely. Why? Because the grandchildren did not spend the time with them to begin with. They were not given the opportunity. They will become depressed. Why? Because they had the negative view of these elderly. And to be honest, this is what is being forced into the minds of the people through media, through social media, through modern lifestyles and so forth. Clearly I have mentioned so many benefits, and so many more benefits that can be mentioned about having extended families.
Sir, I know you mentioned benefits, but you will always find issues when they are extended families, in the sense that, the things which are amongst the daughter-in-law and the mother-in-law. So these issues occur, and doesn't this have an effect on the children to come when they're seeing this, that the grandmother doesn't like the child's mother? So automatically this will have a negative effect on the child. What do you?
Well, I mean, this is a big issue that you've discussed, and we are here to discuss these issues and try to find solutions to these issues. Who's at fault? Is it the child who's at fault, or is it the adults who are at the fault? Definitely it's the adults who are at the fault, that they have not learned to actually understand the emotions of others. And if as a parent I am teaching my children how to understand emotions, how to express emotions, in a positive way, then a lot of these issues can be very easily resolved. And what happens, especially in this day and age, the husband and the wife, they follow the model, and they don't want the grandparents in the house or living in the house. They are depriving themselves of this amazing benefits from a religious, from an Islamic point of view, from social point of view as well. Now, definitely one of the topic that we will discuss in this episode was this big chunk, that the issues related with extended families and how this can cause behavior difficulties within the children. Now, I'm not talking about the issues between parents and the grandparents for the child. Let's talk about the effect that sometimes the interaction between the parents and the grandparents can have on the children. Very commonly, parents complain that the grandparents have spoiled the child. Parents want certain things for their child in certain ways, but the grandparents have a difference of opinion. And this difference of opinion, then what happens is that, for example, let's take this common example. The child has misbehaved, and as we said, that he's misbehaved, he needs to be sanctioned. The parent is trying to apply the sanction, but the grandparents saying, oh, abhi bachcha hai, don't be so harsh, why are you being so mean to your child? This is the fault of grandparents. The grandparents should not intervene in this situation as long as the parent is acting within their capacity and within the boundaries of the teachings of Islam and within the boundaries of what the local law of the land is. And this is one of the issues. I have obviously, you would have come across, and the viewers of Madani Channel have come across such parents who are actually worried, and they blame their own parents, saying that they have spoiled our children. And one of the things what happens, this was sanctions, but what happens is the grandparents may also develop the habit of giving toys,
picking them up all the time,
and for unnecessary things and so forth. And this is going against what we discussed in terms of managing the behavior of the child. Then these are clearly the difficulties and the issues. However, these difficulties and issues, as I said, there are many courses online for parenting. There are extremely good courses online that can actually explain these basic psychological principles, that can explain how to recognize and acknowledge the emotions of the children, how we can actually get their emotions channeled in a positive way rather than a negative way, and how to understand their mentality. Similarly, it will help them to understand their own self as well and others. And majority of the time we do not understand our own emotions, and that causes problems between us and the other individuals, whether it is our children or whether it is our parents. So although I have spoken in this particular situation against the grandparents, but the grandparents could inadvertently lead to this difficult situation where they may play a role in spoiling these grandchildren. And I think in this particular situation, as long as the parents themselves are capable of doing, which they should be, and they are doing it okay, the grandparents, they need to bite their tongue and sit patiently in that particular situation.
Another thing here which I've noticed in society with extended families is the issue, the child picking up things which his father, his mother is doing with the grandparents. So the child sees them habits, the way the parents are treating their parents. I mean, the father is treating his parents, and the child is observing this. And we've seen clips on regarding this, and sort of so-called reality stories have been made on this, in the fact that whatever goes around comes around. So isn't this a bad effect of extended families?
First of all, if we look from an Islamic point of view, and if the parents are educated from or they are familiar with the most basic teachings of Islam from the Quran and from the sayings of the beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how the children should behave with their parents, then to be honest, this actually resolves almost all the issues. However, in reality, very sadly, what happens is we do not know these teachings, and even when we do know, the test comes when there is actually a difficult situation. My advice to parents and the grandparents is you need to even plan for these difficult situations. Have some sort of contract beforehand that if a difficult situation does arise, if there is a difference of opinion, if we are going to talk about family issues, then we need to make sure it does not happen in front of the children. Why? Because these children are very, very delicate. Their mindset at the moment only focuses on the positive things and the positive experiences. They may hold someone very high in their regard, but the parents may be talking about that individual in a negative way. The child will get confused. Similarly, if these arguments are happening, then the children will actually accept this to be a normal thing. They will then apply this on their own parents, and they will assume that this is what the negative thing is. It's like the Prophet ﷺ, once a father, he came with his son and saying that my son has actually hit me with a stick on my head. The Prophet ﷺ asked to the father that how have you given the tarbiyat to your child, something along that. And why the Prophet ﷺ asked the son that why have you done this? He goes that I heard cattle or I heard animals. Whenever two animals fight, I go and hit them with a stick on their head and they stop fighting. So he was using that experience, and the parent did not actually give him the training that you cannot apply that to your own parents. So there was a lack of tarbiyat, there was lack of training on behalf of the parent. So similarly, parents, again, it's the tarbiyat of their own children, and they need to understand that the conflicts, especially for children, should not be happening in front of them. Now, if inadvertently a small, we live in small houses, then you cannot actually, make sure that the children are not seeing it. Sometimes they can hear it as well. If anything like this has happened, now adults will make up between them, but they will make up in absence of the children. If you have ended up having an argument in front of children, you need to then demonstrate the making up in front of the children as well, so that they learn that, okay, it's not an issue if I'm having an argument. If I have to learn to resolve that argument as well. And it is this conflict resolution skills that we have not learned it. Our parents have not modeled it. We are not modeling it to our children, but what is happening is the psychological understanding is missing, and we are repeating the same cycle again, like you said. So if we can have that, religious knowledge, we can act upon it. And Allah forbid, if the difficult situation does arise, try not to do it in front of the children. If it does happen that the children do become aware, then do the conflict resolution in front of the children as well. And obviously, again, you have to obviously get Shariah guidance from a mufti in that particular situation, that what is right, what is wrong. But these are obviously some of the practical issues with extended families. However, someone shouldn't think that these issues are happening, so we shouldn't be in extended families, because that could actually go on. That why, we then have to go through all this hassle. Why not just live on our own with the children and so forth? Life is not easy. Life is a continuous struggle. Life is a test. And the more one individual has difficult experiences and they can deal with those difficult experiences, they themselves will be socially strong. Their children will then be socially strong as well. And what we mean by socially strong, they will be more polite. When there will be, you would have seen that if the two children are fighting in the playground of the school, there will always be one child who will come and stop it. Why is that particular child stopping these two children? I can assure you that his parents will be demonstrating those skills at home, or at least teaching him these skills. And that's what actually then makes us a better human being, a better Muslim.
Doctor, extended families, you know, especially in the UK, in the West here, we've got small houses, 3-bedroom, everyone to fit in and crowd in with the whole house and to be living together. There's not much space. So how do we adjust to this? How do we actually live together in this way?
Now clearly, first of all, you have to accept that, like I mentioned in the beginning, the extended family has got benefits. And I mentioned those benefits, I'm not going to repeat them. So you need to accept those benefits. First of all, if we can plan for it, we could get a bigger house to accommodate our parents in them. Okay? And do it with the right intentions, with the good intentions. It's not just that because, oh, they will be carers for my children or they will be helping me in that situation. Our intention should be to, I'm getting the parents in to serve my parents, to earn the Jannah that has been promised to me by serving through the parents, if it is possible. Now, it's not going to be possible in every situation. Most of the time, obviously, the house is being small and people cannot afford bigger houses. There are other options. Live close to your parents. Don't buy a house 100 miles away from your parents or 20 streets away from your parents. Buy a house close to your parents.
Actually, this type of thinking normally doesn't cross the mind.
And what can happen is, with that intention, okay, you can't have them in your house, but you want to have more interaction with them. It will be easy. Bring the parents in when the children come back from school. Spend that 1 hour with them. Bring the parents in at the meal time. These are the interaction times. And, rather than giving your child a mobile phone, rather than giving your child the screen time, give your child the grandparent time. Give your child the family time. And the more you think about this, the more ways will come into your mind, how I can actually maximize the time of my children with grandparents. Yes, you cannot have a 24/7 extended family, but you can at least have a 2-hour extended family on daily basis. Over the weekend, you can have 6 hours of extended family. And then you can have greater family gatherings, bearing in mind all the beautiful teachings of Islam in terms of, interactions when the extended family members are there as well. So the story just doesn't end, I haven't got space, or I haven't got time and my parents can't move in. You got to think about these other ways and replace the screen time with the grandparents' time.
So, Dr. Sahab, another thing which comes to mind is, some people, like, their grandparents are not here in the UK, or our parents are not here in the UK, just say for an example. And our children, they don't get to see the grandparents because they're living abroad, they're living in Pakistan or whatever, whichever part of the world they are in. They settle down there, we are here. We might go to see them maybe once after 4 or 5 years or something like this, and might even take our children. But how would you get this time?
I will, that's again another interesting situation, and for our generation this is clear the issue, and it may continue to be the issue for the future generations as well, that the grandparents are in the different country. Again, I think if the focus is there, we can actually make room for it, make way for it. For example, many of us here go on a holiday, and they, rather than going to Timbuktu or whatever, why not go to your parents to visit them? People may say, okay, well, those who are financially well off, they can afford to. But those who are not, well, they can still make an effort. For example, you don't need to buy, I don't know, these round thing TVs that have come, or all these other gadgets and so forth. And you may be spending a lot of money on unnecessary things. And if you were to actually reflect on your expenses with the right intention, that rather than spending money on these gadgets, why not save the money and take my children on holiday to be with my parents and their grandparents? So you can use that holiday time. Yes, it will not be as much, but if that is a positive experience when you go there, your children again will benefit from this. And then in this day and age, once the physical interaction is there, nowadays the technology has made things very easy. You can have a video
calling,
conference calling, video calls, but once you had the physical experience, then video call will actually be almost just the same as you are spending the time with them. But the parents have to make this mindset that rather than going on exotic holidays and so on and so forth, I'd actually every time go either Madinatul Munawwara, Makkatul Mukarramah, and then to my parents. And once, for example, yes, I mean, the more we can go Madinatul Munawwara, Makkatul Mukarramah, Medina. But for example, once I've done my Fard Hajj and Umrah and so forth, why not going to the parents with that intention that, you know, I will go and serve them, which is maybe compulsory in many ways, rather than that optional Umrah or optional Hajj.
My dear Islam brothers and viewers of Madani Channel, try to have this relationship and with your families, with your parents, and give your children this upbringing of living with extended families. And inshallah they will benefit from this. They will benefit from their love and the way they treated us. Inshallah our children will also learn from this how to be loving the parents, inshallah. So may Allah give us the ability to remember these things and to act upon them. Ameen bijal Nabil Ameen sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam.
Ya Allah, grant me